describe an elementary student? Uh, elementary student. First one I asked, how do you describe a junior high school student? Now I want to ask, how do you describe an elementary student? Okay, curious and creative, energetic, again, curious, energetic. Okay, so most of us describe elementary students as, oh, we have imaginative. Very good. It's a different one. Most of us describe an elementary student as creative, curious, and imaginative, and sometimes, of course, annoying. Okay, so that is our perception, and I think most of us have that perception as well. Okay, some of the chat box they said curious also. Okay, so for our first activity, we have learned our perceptions of students. Now, here are some of the characteristics of an adult learner. So we will be using a Venn diagram to describe each. The first one, the adult learners are goal-oriented. They study for a reason, expect punctuality, study a smaller range of topics suited to their needs, like to be included in discussion, prefer a quiet learning environment, and will leave the course if expectations are not met. So an adult learners usually enroll themselves in a course because they want it or they need it for a job, for example, language classes or master's degree, and some online courses. So if all of these expectations are not met, they will leave it. It's easy. The difference between adult from young learner is this. They need structure and direction, need a stimulating environment, need to be taught punctuality and how to behave in the classroom, curious and want to learn about everything. They have a short attention span. Their feedback and positive reinforcement is important to them and can show unusual fears and copings. Now, if you have the same classroom setting, some teachers, especially some schools, it depends actually, they prefer a very colorful room to stimulate the curiosity of the students. Some have a very beautiful room, like there's a theme. There was one of my schools before, they are funding colorful classrooms, as in there's a carnival theme, they're under the sea, and many more. So they want the students to learn more through visual and sometimes touch. But in adult learners, a chair and a whiteboard is already enough. Also, some fears are very evident in the young learners. That is why if you have a very strong voice, you might go down and then you will use a softer voice so that they will not be scared. So that if you want them to learn from you and trust you. That's an example of that. Positive feedback is very important to young learners. They want to be praised and sometimes they want to be given rewards. You don't need to give them a reward like money or anything. Sometimes a candy will do if the school allows. So how can you teach an alphabet? So on a adult learner, it's easy to tell them, okay, this is A, this is B, this is C. However, when it comes to young learners, you need several things. When we were younger, our parents maybe, they keep on playing songs, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and we will sing and sing and sing every day. And that's why we know all of our ABCs. Some uses videos nowadays, songs, flashcards, which is still they are used even before because you could use old folders and any recyclable materials for flashcards. Tracing is also a good thing so that they could practice writing and also building blocks. The one that has with letter, little by little, they could form into a simple CBCs or sounds. So I have observed some classes in elementary to teach greetings. They have a song, buongiorno, or this, ni hao ma, like that. And they have a lot of songs so that the students will know different greetings through songs. So it depends upon the curriculum of what the teacher wants to teach the students. Now, the first thing is you should know your students. Some female tend to develop physically and mentally faster than boys, and they focus for longer periods compared to boys. This is the reason why sometimes we always say that the female is prim and proper compared to boys. Some of that, and that's the reason why most teachers find it hard to teach boys because they are curious, they do not have focus. So it depends. Another thing is multiples. Twins, triplets develop slower than single birth child because they have each other to interact. They build their own language, twin language. Delayed speech is every day and needs to be factored in. So because they don't need to play with others, they're already contented with their twin brother or twin sister. They don't need to learn the language of the older in a the span, right? So they could just wait, just them to understand them. So that's the reason why multiples have hard time to learn because they already have the needs are already satisfied with their need. Also, we have the cultural differences. Every culture has its own rules and personal space. Some students came from different cultures. Some students are reserved. They like eye contact, but some are offended by it. So it depends upon the culture. That's why, as a teacher, you need to know the culture of the school, and sometimes you need to research more so that you will have an effective and approved techniques. Okay, so I have here some tools and resources for teaching English. Actually, this one, the GIF that I'm showing you, this is some school they they help the kids to understand hygiene and using balloons, as you can see, they are teaching the kids to wipe it. So it's easy for them to do so, and it will be reinforced by the parents. If you will use this, usually the curriculum is already presented to the parents so that no problem will arise. Uh, some we could use songs and videos. In YouTube, we have a lot of videos and songs. We could use some free stuffs that were uh, given to us, or we could easily produce it. We could use some games. A lot of students love games, not just in preschool, but also in junior high school. They love games. Some games include boys versus girls. You could have by groups or class versus class. They love that. And we could also use flashcards. There are different free class cards, or you could just make yours on PowerPoint presentation. We also have worksheets. You could use worksheets. A lot of worksheets are free in the internet. So you could download it and use it for your students. Art arts and crafts. In elementary schools, we love using arts and crafts. I think this one is from a toilet paper. So we will teach them how to recycle using the old materials to make a new one. And actually, I'm proud of this. This is actually the work of my grade 10 students. I asked them to make a trailer, a poster rather, of a story. So this is what they did. So they picture themselves and then they edit it. They are the one who um, they're the ones who create this one. I gave them, I think, less than a month to do this. And I asked them as a game to the best uh, the best poster will receive a very high grade in their project. And actually this poster won. A lot of students are involved and they voted for this one. So okay, this one. Okay, so Ma'am Zahir, I would like, can you copy the link of this video? This one is a thriller video from my students, and I hope that you like it. I think it is just 2 minutes. So I'll be giving you 2 minutes to view this one. Okay. So as you can see, okay, thank you for, yes, the students make it, and during that time there are just grade 8 students. And if you're asking what the video editing software they use, I think they said it is from their iPhone. So they've been shooting using their iPhones. They also edit using iPhone. What is Okay, thank you for the positive comments for my students. Actually, I have a lot of that because that is what the students want. Okay, now, how the teacher students? The first thing you should know is you should know what, as a teacher, you can do. What is your weakness? What is your strength? When I was teaching, I've been, when I was a student, I've been observing my teachers. And some teachers are good at backups. I can't do that. I'm not that good at cutting out. I'm not good at drawing. So what should I do? Maybe some of you are the same as me. The first thing that you should do is to know your talent. What is your talent? Do you love acting? Because if you do, you could use that. Actually, because of I love acting, making a lot of voices, I became a coach of different declamation, also all that reading, reading poems, also, and a lot of things. This is what I do, and I encourage my students to do those things as well. So we have a lot of plays and also a lot of activities. The second one is the availability of the resources. Now that you know your talents, the second thing that you would do is to know what is the available resources in your area. Maybe some of you have funded a fund from your school and they will give you a lot of subscriptions. But not all teachers are like that. So the good thing is we have a lot of free teaching tools. So Mamza here, kindly share the third thing. This is actually a blog. It was shared to us by another webinar, and I've been browsing a lot of things, and I have here 75 digital tools and apps teachers can use to support formative assessment in the classroom. I will not discuss a lot of this, but based on my um, scan, it is more on surveys and video editing and also like a Jamboard. So a lot of free things. So this is most of them have like Kahoot, and some of them are already discussed in this webinar chat, in the previous webinar chat. So okay, and don't worry, Ma'am Zahir will email you some links so that you will have these things. Okay, so let's proceed. So first thing, you already have free teaching tools. You could search the net, and then you will judge. How can I use it in my class? How can I use my own talent to discuss it to my students? The next one is know your students. Ask their talents, ask their likes and dislikes, and know what makes them interested. Based on this, I have actually this is my students love BTS, most of them. I saw them uh, looking at pictures of this boy band while reviewing. That makes them happy. Some of them love animes. This one is Naruto. Some of them like sports, especially the boys. So what I do is I use them. I try to view or try to listen so that I could talk to them. And aside from that, I could use some examples, especially in grammar. For example, Taeyong loves to cook. Oh, some of the girls will be, oh my god, Taeyong, like that. They will be happy. Or another is Stephen Curry is a good athlete. Then some of the boys will be, no, the best athlete is blah, blah, blah. So they will give their examples. They love that. And also, knowing their talents, you will know what kind of section you have. When I asked them the previous sections, they prefer acting. That's why we have a lot of movies, a lot of different things, because that is their talent. Most of them are like that. So that's one. Actually, every time I have a presentation, first things that they would do is introduce themselves. This is actually a first year college, and and since it is not face to face, so I asked them to do a TikTok because what that is the trend right now. So this is an example of the TikTok. I don't know if you could hear the music, but I will ask them to introduce themselves and just say something about themselves. So if you cannot hear the sounds, actually all the single ladies. Okay. So this one is actually a TikTok video of my students. I asked them to share what they like, just a little bit about them because I cannot see them because it's face to face. It's not face to face rather. So don't worry. This projects that my students made will be emailed to you. I actually, Ma'am Zahir, this educational webinar chat will email you all of the activities that my students did so that you could browse it if you have time. So these are some examples of it. And the question is, why did you use TikTok? Because most of my students in our country loves TikTok. Then let us use what they want so that they can do what they want. So that's the reason why the first activity that we have is a TikTok introduction of themselves. Most of them, I thought some of them will not submit, but all of them submitted and they're very happy and they want to share it for everyone. So next one is involve your students. Ask them what they like or what assessment strategies they prefer. There was a time that during my class, I asked them, okay, our class is already finished. What do you want to do? And you can say you will do nothing. We'll have an activity, but do you have anything that you like? Then some of them will suggest, Ma'am, we want role playing. Ma'am, we want tableau. Ma'am, we want this. We want analysis, want essay. So we want to have a group quiz. So it depends upon the students. So sometimes when they are involved with the decision making, they are they feel that you are giving them enough things and then they will trust you and they will comply. Next is also involve your students' parents. Show them the achievements of their kids. Actually, every parent teacher conference, I always put up a gallery. Some of you said that the trailer that I shared is actually pretty good. Imagine the parents during the PTC. They did not know that their kids could do those things. That's why I shared it to their parents. That is the reason why some students, since their parent will see their works during PTC, they they really do a lot of things so that their parents would be impressed. And I always show that to their parents. And the parents are always happy because they never thought that their kids will be very jolly and very talented. Some of them sing, some of them dance, some of them are joker, which is not how the parents know their kids. So it's very important also to involve the parents if you have PTC. But if not, you could have a Facebook page or YouTube channel in which you will inform the students that their works will be posted there and then it will be shared to their parents. It's up to you. It's up to your teaching style and what works for you. Next is reward your students. Explain how their grades will be computed as well. If, for example, you reward them to have additional points, now the students should know what, where, or when they will receive their additional points. Sometimes exemption is another thing. Also, groupings is another way to teach your students. There was a time that I told my students that, okay, if the group will receive, each member of the group will have the 75% of the quiz. All of them will pass 75%. It is usually 10 items only. Then all of you will receive a perfect score. Then the students, especially the honor students, what they did is they reviewed the not honor students, the one who has a little very low grades. They read review, and there was a time that all of them got perfect score. Now this is a win-win situation. Yes, very good. They will help each other. I didn't thought that they will do that, but I saw them during lunch breaks, the cafeteria, that they are reviewing. They're reviewing, and sometimes I was laughing because I saw them. Please, this is the correct answer. You can do it like that. They've been coaching each other and repeat it. Okay, how about this one? Who is King Arthur? They will do that, and I was laughing because I'm not parsing them, and they review or not, it's fine because they will still have their scores. But the leaders will always review their members. And the members, their group actually are, most of them receive a very high score. And also, exemption. There was also time that I asked them to perform, and I was very impressed. Okay, next meeting, you will be exempted because you did a good job. So some group members, some other groups rather, they started giving up. Every time that they will present in front of the class, they are very funny, they're very informative because they want to be accepted. So it's good. But I did not, I think their exemption is not, of course, I cannot exempt them every time. I need their scores. But one time or twice is already enough for me. And next is groupings. This is what I do in my class. So this might work for you, or you will have another idea. In every one grading period, we have one group quiz, or sometimes two. Depends upon them. So they will have a quiz. And sometimes I will tell them, okay, only one per member will take the quiz. This is just 10 items. I always give small item quizzes so that, but it has a lot. So it will serve also as their attendance. I will tell them only one will be able to take this. Now, they know that I will not ask the leaders to take the test. They know that I will ask the low ranking students. That is why they will review all of the students that they think that might be good. So what happened is all of them review. They want it or they do not want it because their leader are very, very strict. And sometimes group presentation is also a very fun way to engage your students. There was a time that I asked them to have a group presentation. Uh, we have uh, we have we've been studying Nole Metangere. Nole Metangere is a literature. It was reviewed per chapter of the book because it is very important in our country. So I said, okay, so we will have two chapters. We will have a group recitation. Then what happened upon entering? Everyone is in their game phase. And then I said, okay, this is what happened, and discussion. I think I only have 30 minutes. And they said, ma'am, stop the discussion. Let's have the recitation. Okay, so are you sure? Yes, ma'am. You want to compete? They will do the competition and they will start it and they're very happy. Everyone is writing their answers. So I think it's good because most of them, even if the people that I didn't know that knows the answer are actually contributing. So it's good. Next one is actually group reading journeys. In my school, we have Lelexi level. And it is found out that most of the students, even if, for example, they're grade 10, their Lexile or the reading comprehension score is just like a grade 1. So it's very poor. That's why uh, we've been, actually, I volunteered. Okay, so I'll try to up the reading journey of my students. So I grouped them again, their groupings, their permanent grouping. I told them, okay, your project is this. All of you must have 10 books per grading. At least read 10 books with your reading lesson. Now, what you will do is, uh, it's up to you if you will read more. I don't mind. But each student must have 10. And then all scores, because they will have a quiz afterwards, will be computed and divided to how many members. So what happened? Some of my students read 100 books for just one grading period. And the library was always jam-packed with junior high school students, of course, my students, because they want to read a lot of books because they want to compete with other groups. So the group reading journey, the Scholastic, they came to our school and they said that we have the quota because due the summer, the book reading time, because all of us read a lot of books. And it's good because their Lexa level are actually higher than what they have last time. Sad to say, COVID happened, so we didn't. But at least I encourage my students to read books. Next is group projects. So as you can see, I already posted uh, the the different group projects that my students did. Aside from that, I also have some recitation. I have noticed that my students are not reciting. Of course, not all students are very eager to recite. Some of them are shy. So what I did is every time that we will have a discussion, I will ask them to bring a whiteboard marker or and also a whiteboard, a small whiteboard or any chalk or anything that they could do. So they could use rather. So they will take down notes and then after every discussion, we will have a recitation afterwards. But for those reflection type of recitation, they could raise their hands and I will ask them, they will have another word. So after every lesson, we will have a recitation. So I think that is just 10 items. There was a time that we only have 10 minutes left and I don't want to have an overtime because for me, lunch is very important to my students. So I said, okay, let's just have our recitation next meeting. And they said, no, ma'am, please stay. We would like to have the recitation now because they have all of the answers. Then I noticed that because of the things that I've been doing, the recitation individual, they will raise their hands, they will raise their whiteboards and their answers is there. Some of my students are actually bringing their books every time recess. They are encircling some of the important notes. They're taking down notes and they're using those reviewers for until the examination. So their grades actually are very high before that. So everything I did is a positive for my students. Now the problem is what can I do now? So this is what I use. As you can see, this is my reflection. This is a Jamboard. And I asked my students to write. And I have noticed that my students are not, can I use these ideas in one? Yes, actually, you could use this in one on one, but I think you need to tailor it down for the type of student that you have. So this one is the job. Thank you, ma'am. this is the Jamboard. So I asked my students, what did you learn today? And the students are not unmuting their mics. They're not. So I said, okay, open your Jamboards and please write it down. Now in Philippines, there are times that some students are synchronous and some is not as asynchronous. So to mix their ideas, what I did is I opened a Jamboard and then they could just write down their reflections and then screenshot it, and after screen and they will turn it in our Google Classroom. So that's what I did. So now we will have the total physical response. What is TPR? It is teaching by using physical movements to react to verbal input. We have hand gestures, costumes, props, tone of the voice, and facial expressions. So, is it, during face to face, it's easy. The students could easily see you. You could easily say, "What is this? This is a sharpener." Very good. And then you will allow them to hold the sharpener and they could use it. This is a sharpener. But now it's hard because we only have this, the webcam, most of us. So what we could do, I'll stop my share. Can you see me in the screen? Or should I stop my
Yes.
presentation? Okay, you can see. Thank you. Okay. So what you could do is imagine that you're here. Okay, so imagine your students. What you need to do, especially if your students are little, you could have colorful backgrounds. Of course, if you have a printer, please use better backgrounds than this. Although my students are in college, I've been using this kind of backgrounds so that there will be steam. They could feel it. So what you could do is you could use the things that you already have. But with TPR, you should actually use your facial expression. Some of you will say, "I'm a guy. I cannot do that." But actually, you could do. Some guys yes, you could use picture with whiteboard. You could actually write it down. For example, this is the whiteboard. And did you see this clearly? I am your teacher. Your teacher. Yes, very good. So you could also, what color is this? Yes, this is red. Very good. So you could change your voice. And again, it should depend upon your personality. Some people believe, especially if those who teach in online classes, they believe that it's you should be a clown. But of course, it depends. It depends upon your personality. Always reflect on what you could do. It's very hard to I saw this. This is good. I will do this. But you really can't do it. Okay. Also, for my face to face, I don't know if this will be applicable to you. And I tried this. I'll share two more things, but I forgot to put it on my PowerPoint presentation. Um, there was a time that I saw that my students are very bored in my class. So I've been thinking, what should I do? And some of them are writing. Some students are not writing. So what I did is I sat in front and I said, starting today, when I clap my hands like this, all of you must clap their hands. The student failed to do so will have deduction, or I think we agree that they will have a quiz, or they will not be allowed to enter the class. So every time that I've been discussing, I'm not holding anything. So I was like that, and then I would discuss, and I'd walk and walk and walk, and everybody, especially those who is writing, oh my, like that. And there was a time that I used this with my college student, and because they've been texting, and I saw them that they're texting, there was a time, okay, instead of me being very mad and monstrous to them, what I did is I just clapped, and the cell phone actually was thrown away because uh, she was shocked, and then the phone fell. That's not that's because she's not listening. So that's why. The second is if you want to teach pronunciation, you could also do the group thing. I use tongue twisters. I will post tongue twisters. I have two subjects for my grade 10 students and grade 9. Mother tongue, which is it's Filipino, and also English. So for my English subjects, I'll be putting tongue twisters. So I will tell them, I think I will come 5 minutes earlier. I will tell them, tomorrow, you should memorize this by group. If not, you're not allowed to enter class. So you can see some students has hard time in memorizing words. They they tried their best to memorize. Of course, I know my students and I sometimes lower the expectation and allow them to do so. And their classmates will check them. Is he mimicking his group mates? So they're very good. So you could use tongue twisters and so I think everything depends upon you. So let's go back to total physical response. First, you need to prepare everything. You should think, uh, this one, could it be useful? You should prepare everything that you need, especially during a 5 minute class. Or I think 20-minute class in online. So you will prepare everything so that it's easy. For example, this one, teacher, this is what color is this? This is pink. Can you say pink? Very good. Say it again. Okay, so the cue is repetition. Next is writing. Sometimes, of course, we need to practice writing and spelling. That's why you need to ask them to write and write and repeat and repeat and repeat practice. Okay, so for the reflection of our webinar, positive reinforcement, you should focus on the words and phrases they have learned and praise them. Everybody likes to be praised and be commented, but in a good way. Let us first practice commenting in a good way in our class. So tell them their positive things. There was a time that I forgot to give comments to my students. Then one of my students approached, Ma'am, why didn't you give a comment to our presentation? I'm sorry, I forgot. Uh, Actually, but don't worry, I have the list. I always list down the things that I find it. Okay, as a teacher, we should always look for good things for our students. Do not linger on the concept they got wrong. They do not. No one wants to have always be reminded of the wrong things that they did. That's why they need to uh, know the positive things that they did. If a child does not want to talk but is happy sitting in the group, do not force an answer out of her or him. Little by little, let the child trust you. And little by little, he or she will speak. Regular eye contact and fun gestures such as high five and trusting relationship children seek your approval, so given as rewards. Children learn at their own pace and not at your own pace that their parents also expect. Do not tell the student that this is easy. Why can't you understand this? I've been teaching you this for 100 times. Well, let's reflect. Do you think when you were children, are you that fast? Of course, in some, maybe you are really bright, but not all students are very bright. Talk about things children can relate to their world. food, family, animals, and colors. You can ask them, especially if you have one by one, what is your favorite food? Me too. I like to eat that. What is the name of your pet? You could ask them that. I also use colorful stamps and stickers as rewards. If you, during face to face, you could use stamps or token. Some of my co-teachers, they have tickets, and then at the end of the grading period, they give rewards. So it's like they're in the toy kingdom, and then the teacher will give them, okay, since you are the highest, I will give you bigger gift. But it's actually very expensive as a part of the teacher. But it depends upon some of my colleagues, they use movie tickets. So they could go with their parents. But of course, it depends upon what is allowed in your school and what you could do. Always do not forget, a teacher will be very effective if he or she uses his or her own talents. If you are tall or physically imposing, of course you know that you may intimidate the child, so you must get down to child's standards. So, for example, you know that you're very big, you're very tall, you could slouch for a little, and then you ask them. Now, these things are what we want. If you want to, if you want your students to trust you, these are the things that you do. But if that's not what you want, you of course you have other things. Okay, always remember that you should use the things that you learn and then use what you already have. So you should mix everything that you have. Okay? So we have the post activity is the Jamboard. I think we have the jam post activity. I think it was already shared to you. So I think the Jamboard is already shared. Let us check. Okay. Okay. So this is an example of a Jamboard. Um, oh, uh, so anyway, this is an example of a Jamboard, and what you could do is you could write it down supposedly, but the problem is um, I should be the author. Anyway, I'll send to you a more accessible one. But this is how the educational Jamboard uh, will look like. So I think I've already wrapped it up with this one. So if you have questions, Bam will help me.
Yes, thank you, Diane. Thank you. It was very interesting to listen to you. If you have any questions, please you may ask now. You can open your mic and ask Miss Diane if you have any questions regarding this webinar. You have 2 minutes left. If you have any questions, please ask now. All the links will be shared to you with your certificate. And if you don't receive your certificate within 3 working days, please contact us, email us. Sometimes we don't have your emails that you have registered with. So kindly contact us if you don't receive one. Okay, there is one question, Diane.
I have a question also.
Yes, please, Nada, go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Diane, actually, I wanted to ask you just one simple thing. I am dealing with children of 6 years old, and for me, a concern is assessment. Online assessment is a big problem. So I understand this is a very big and a vast topic. But then, if you could just sum up in maybe 1 or 2 minutes how uh, assessment could become easy for us. Definitely, all the strategies that you gave us wonderful. I was just simply sitting down and jotting all of those down, and I started imagining myself in your place, and I was thinking of how to implement all these. But then, assessment is one place where I'm getting stuck with these strategies that you've given. Thank you.
Okay. So when it comes to assessment, it depends upon the availability of the resources. Now, um, may I know, ma'am, if the 6-year-old student that you're asking could be assisted by their parent?
Uh, we assume that they are already being assisted by the parents because they are all at home studying online. So we are forced to assume that the parents are definitely assisting them.
Okay. I think one of the things that you could use in, especially if it's one-on-one, you could use Kahoot. Kahoot is an online learning. I think you could you could change the time so that it will be not too fast. And then, and also I think we have already a webinar before about that. Because they will just click using their device while you will project the question. They will just click using their device, their answer, and it's easy for them to be assessed. If, for example, your questions could be answered in multiple choice. Now, if for example you want them to draw, you could use a Jamboard. For example, this one. Wait. If you want to have, for example, you want them to draw something, you could use a webinar. Sorry, a Jamboard. So I'll be sharing my screen again.
We have just 1 minute left, Miss Diane.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for the reminder. So, for example, you could use this and you have a Google Meet. Then you could ask them, what is the color? You actually could prepare this one ahead of time. You could have more boards, and you could set a background. For example, since they're 6 years old, you could have lines, and you could ask them to write down. I actually could put a picture, and you could ask, what color is this? For example, I have a red balloon, green balloon, and a yellow balloon. And then you will ask your student, for example, Krishna, can you put a circle on the red balloon? So she will put a circle on the red balloon. So you could use that for a 6 years old. Actually, it depends upon the the lesson, of course.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I'll definitely implement them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nada, for your questions. We have one more question from Borak. He is asking an interesting question. Speaking about twins, do they really create their own language, or it is like a simple version of language being spoken by parents?
Okay. This is actually based on my experience, and the presentation that I've shared to you about twins is from TESOL. So I will be using those two, my experience and TESOL. So TESOL said that they create their own language, maybe through, I don't know if it's, of course it's a language because they're using that to communicate. But I have cousins who's actually twins, and no one could play with them when they were growing up. No one could understand them, and sometimes the parents fail to understand them as well. Only them is already enough. So sometimes it happens. But maybe if they will not have too much exposure with each other, but I think it's not impossible. It, I think that there would be a problem. I think they will create their own language. But eventually, through the help of the parents, exposing them to different playmates, they will eventually learn how to speak with others.
Great, thank you. We will end the session today here. Thank you very much, Ms. Diane, for coming on our platform and presenting and sharing great ideas with us. We appreciate it really. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and we hope to see you again in future. Bye for now.